Hi, this is David Batchelor, and in this video my friend Thomas is going to answer the question, what is CBD?
Everywhere you turn, there is someone talking about CBD right now. The hard part is when you're looking at the effects of CBD on the body, there's only so much that can really be talked about. You see, there's a lot of censorship because it's so close to cannabis, it's very difficult to talk about CBD. So what I wanted to do in this video is I wanted to break down the science of how it truly works in your body. I want to do this because I feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I also feel like we need to understand that endocannabinoid receptors in our body are a natural thing, and endocannabinoids are a natural thing that are existing in our body. So in this video, what you're going to see is ultimately an overview of what happens inside the body with endocannabinoids, with different adenosine receptors, with different serotonin receptors, glutamate, dopamine, all the things that actually make your body go round when it comes down to endocannabinoids. So first off, what we have to talk about is what exactly is CBD? All right, CBD is the non-psychoactive component of cannabis. Okay, so CBD oil is usually extracted, and it's the component that doesn't have an effect like THC. So it works on different receptors within the body. Most of us know this by now because we see influencers all over the place talking about CBD, and they're all acting like crazy experts. The thing is it goes a lot deeper than the fact that it's just not THC. Okay, there's a lot that goes on in the body. So how exactly do these endocannabinoid receptors work within the body? See, we have two different receptors. We have CBD1 and CBD2. And these are all throughout the body. They're not just in the brain. Okay? They're not just affecting the psychoactive portion of the body. Okay? They are affecting the brain, but also even more so throughout the course of the body in our inflammatory system, in our immune system, and everything that we need to know there. Okay? CBD1 is found mostly in the brain, however. So CBD1 is the one that affects your mood, it affects emotion, it affects a lot of things when it comes down to your appetite, even coordination, movement, and pain that relates to your brain and how you perceive it. Okay, then we have CBD2. CBD2 works on the body, works on inflammation, works on the immune system. And there is a correlation between CBD1 and CBD2. They communicate, of course, but one is more so for the brain and one is more so for the immune system and for the body. And what you're going to find is that THC activates both of these. But here's what's interesting. Do not believe all of the marketing that says that CBD oil only affects CBD2 receptors. That is not true. That's not how it works, okay? CBD2 receptors have to do with the immune system and inflammation, like I said. But CBD oil does not directly affect CBD1 nor CBD2 receptors. It doesn't affect them at all. You see, what it does is it influences the body to naturally utilize more of its naturally occurring endocannabinoids. See, endocannabinoids are things that our body can create, but we also get them from food and various polyphenols that we consume. It's a totally normal, natural thing. Whether our body uses them is a completely different story. So CBD oil influences the body to utilize more of the endocannabinoids that are already existing, therefore enhancing how those endocannabinoid receptors, particularly CBD2, actually utilizes them. So it's not directly affecting the receptors the way that THC would. But how does it actually work in the body? I'm talking about receptors, and that's all fine and dandy, but what physiological effect does this have? Well, here's the interesting thing. Even though you have a natural utilization of these endocannabinoids, it doesn't necessarily mean that the endocannabinoids are the end-all be-all. You see, it's the byproduct of this. It's the utilization and the activation of vanilloid receptors, of adenosine receptors, and serotonin receptors that ultimately give us the sensation and the end result that we are seeking when we look at a CBD oil. Okay, so the vanilloid receptors end up working with body temperature. They end up working with helping you regulate that system within the body, also helping you regulate inflammation through different ways. If we have a higher core body temperature, it's going to affect our inflammation. If we have a lower core body temperature, it's going to affect our inflammatory levels within the body. So these vanilloid receptors play a key role, and they are directly correlated with the endocannabinoid receptors. But here's the really interesting one, adenosine. How many of you have ever had a cup of coffee? Or how many of you have ever had caffeine at some point in your life? Chances are you have. So you know that excited, excitatory feeling that you get. Well, what happens with adenosine is you end up blocking adenosine with caffeine. Caffeine blocks the adenosine receptor, which therefore means that you get more excited because adenosine would normally make you relaxed. So if you have a lot of adenosine in the body, you're relaxed, you might even be sleepy. But caffeine blocks that receptor, which therefore makes you more energized. Well, CBD affects the adenosine receptor by increasing the activity of it. So you might be wondering, well, does that mean it's going to do the opposite of caffeine? Well, kind of. It's going to do the opposite of the bad effect of caffeine in some ways. You see, when we actually have caffeine, we are basically blocking that adenosine receptor and therefore triggering a secondary response. We're triggering a secondary response of excitatory catecholamines. What that means is adrenaline, noradrenaline, epinephrine, all of the catecholamines that cause us to have this heightened sense of awareness and alertness. That is what's giving us the energy. It's not specifically the blocking of adenosine. So when we do allow adenosine, we don't have the opposite of epinephrine or adrenaline. There really isn't an opposite of it. It's either just on or off. You don't go fully polar opposite with it. So basically, you're slowing down the epinephrine, you're slowing down the adrenaline, and allowing your body to relax. So it's not like you're going to have the negative effect where you're super, super sleepy. You're just getting a calming effect, which is why so many people like utilizing CBD oil. They just end up getting confused as to why it's actually doing it. Then we have to talk about dopamine receptors. Dopamine's a simple one. Dopamine is the reward system within the brain. So by activating dopamine, it ends up allowing us to feel better all the time. But it allows us to naturally utilize dopamine. We're not taking exogenous dopamine. We're not taking drugs. We're not taking recreational drugs, things that are actually causing us to have more dopamine. We're naturally increasing the body's utilization of existing dopamine by enhancing the receptor sensitivity. Okay, and in that same vein, we also talk about glutamate. You see, glutamate is something that is excitatory. Glutamate actually triggers energy, but too much of it is a bad thing. Too much glutamate can lead to a seizure, can lead to all kinds of bad things. Glutamate is not what we want a lot of. However, the right amount of it can trigger energy in the right places. So when you think about the calming effect of adenosine, making you calm, and then you combine it with a specific energy effect of glutamate, you actually have a really unique thing. You're calm, but that glutamate is activating, energizing specific parts of the brain that are correlated with memory and retention. So thereby, you can have the right energy in the brain, stimulating creative process, all while feeling calm. So feeling calm, relaxed, anti-inflamed, yet still awake in terms of your brain. So very, very powerful when it comes to that. Then, of course, we look at the serotonin receptors. Okay, what ends up happening is CBD activates something known as 5-HT1A. 5-HT1A acts in a very similar way as an SSRI, a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. It allows our body to create more serotonin and utilize it more efficiently. Okay, so that's going to help you feel good. Serotonin is just a feel-good neurotransmitter in the first place. And lastly, cancer. I want to talk about this in a little bit more depth in another video in the future, but basically we have specific signals that happen in the body when it comes down to cancer. Specifically, I'm talking about GPR55. In this case, GPR55 is something that triggers minerals and vitamins to be retrieved from the bones to ultimately feed cancer. That's why when people get cancer, a lot of times they end up getting weaker bones. A lot of times they end up increasing their risk of fractures and things like that. So what ends up happening is CBD reduces the body's ability to retrieve nutrients from the bone to feed cancer cells. This is just one of the many ways that CBD has an effect on cancer, and it's one of the most researched. But of course, I'll do another video in the future that talks about how this actually has a specific effect on a multitude of different things when it comes down to cancer. So I hope that this video broke down CBD as a general overview and helped clear up some of the crazy marketing that's out there surrounding CBD. I can totally understand why Facebook, why YouTube, why so many different media properties and media buying properties have made it so difficult to advertise. And that has to do with the fact that people are really utilizing CBD in the wrong way and they're marketing it poorly and they're flat out lying. So this video is just a general overview to help you understand what happens in the body and why it does so. As always, keep it locked in here on my channel. If you have ideas for future videos, let me know in the comment section. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Thomas. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, and it's my way of saying thank you by simply clicking in the link below in the description. Click on that link and I will send you some free CBD.